It is Reier on YouTube live on a Wednesday afternoon. I'm positioned right here in Duval, a very, very hyped, as you might expect, Jacksonville, Florida, as the hometown Jaguars prepare, just as we all thought, right, Ev? 12 months ago, we all knew this was coming down the pike for the Jacksonville Jaguars. We fully anticipated the Jags hosting a playoff game, even if it was the wild card round. And not just that, I mean, Evan, there is a lot of buzz about this Jacksonville Jaguars team going into into the AFC playoffs, that this might be the team to beat in the AFC, given the way they've played over the last month and a half or so.
Yeah, winners of 8 straight. You beat the number one seed in the process of winning those 8 straight games, and yeah, there's not really a reason to feel like that you can't do it right now. Injury situation right now is really positive as well. This is just a team that at the moment everything is signaling towards playoff success, but the main issue is that, of all the teams you could have drawn in the wild card round, you got the best quarterback in maybe the entire playoffs, and so that makes things, a little scary.
Yeah, I think we talked about it a couple weeks ago. Would you rather see the Patriots or the Texans in this
Right.
game? And I went with the Patriots, even with Drake May having an MVP worthy
Kind of, yeah.
year. I have concerns about starting with that Texans defense
Yeah.
primarily as much as anything else. I think there's a confidence for the Texans when it relates to the Jacksonville Jaguars. We didn't really factor the Bills into all this, but I would have had the Bills right there with the Texans in terms of I still would have rather have seen the Patriots in Duval than the Bills in this first game. And it starts with the quarterback position. Like you said, I mean, Josh Allen is what he is. We already know he's an MVP at that
Yeah.
position. And it's not just Josh Allen. I mean, we were in Buffalo last season for that 47-10 beatdown. It's the tight ends, it's James Cook. James Cook led the NFL in rushing this year.
Yeah.
So there are some things to concern yourself about, even as well as the Jags have played on the defensive side.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, at the end of the day, this is, on the AFC side, this is a guy with 7 playoff wins, a team with 7 playoff wins, right? Between not just Josh Allen, but a lot of those key pieces and head coach Sean McDermott. 7 wins without ever making a Super Bowl is actually the most for any coach or QB. So there's also a sincere amount of pressure on the Bills this year, even though they don't really have, a juggernaut team. There is like this kind of vibe around the NFL of like, well, the Bills don't have to face Patrick Mahomes and they don't have to face,
Yeah.
whatever. It's like this is their year to go do it. But and Vegas clearly thinks that they can go do it because they are favored against the Jags on the road, which is kind of wild. But yeah, no, they are a very dangerous offense. That being said, it is interesting that, the weakest part of the Bills offense, which is the wide receiver group,
Yeah.
you are matched up with what might be the weakest part of the Jaguars roster in the secondary. So when you start thinking about the matchup between all the different positional groups, I definitely think the Jaguars actually get a huge benefit there by really, facing a group that's not especially explosive or dynamic.
Yeah.
Khalil Shakir is a problem in open space for sure, but really that group doesn't scare you like, maybe in previous years when, you got Stephon Diggs and, non-Jaguar Gabe Davis lining up against you.
I think in some ways the Bills, the challenge for the Jags offensively will be similar to what they got from the Chiefs in the Monday night game.
Yeah.
You're going to worry about the tight end,
Yep.
Kelsey for the Chiefs, a couple different guys for the Bills. You're going to worry somewhat about the running back position. I think a
Yeah,
lot
you
you're going
have
to worry
to.
about with James Cook, more so than even what you did with Pacheco and the Chiefs and those guys. And then the quarterback, when he decides to improv. Those are things you can talk about, you can rep as best you can in the practice week, but you can't totally simulate it and you can't totally prepare for what Josh Allen can give you. And not just in terms of elusiveness and ability to extend, but physicality when he runs the football too.
Oh yeah. I mean, and that's the thing is like if you if you let him scramble, if you let him kind of get that kind of juice going and that team gets fired up, that's a problem. This is kind of, we talked about it earlier in the year, how the Jaguars were able to methodically put teams to sleep, when the offense wasn't even clicking as well as it has been in the past few weeks, like just being able to kind of, take it out of another team. That's kind of going to be what they need to do here. When I think about what positional group do I think has like the most important job of maybe the entire game, it'd be the defensive line. The Jaguars have been tremendous against the run this year. They haven't allowed a 75+ yard rusher all season. I think the only team in the NFL to do that. That's critical. Even though as good as Josh Allen is, James Cook cannot get going. You absolutely have to limit him to, there's like 2 to 3 yard to carry. You can't let him bust runs. And then, from there, it's just, hoping that your secondary makes a play or that, again, defensive line, just Josh Allen, Trayvon Walker, where are you guys at? Like, this is where you got to
they'll throw it to him too.
Yeah.
They'll throw it to him. Ray Davis isn't an ability to take a real breather when he's in the game either.
Yeah.
They have a lot of trust in him. He had 150 against the Jets. Now it was the Jets last week, but they're 2 or 3 deep at the running back position, kind of like the Jags too.
Yeah, no, they still have a really good roster. They've had to deal with some injuries this year. It hasn't necessarily gone exactly the way that they wanted, but this is still overall a really good roster. This is a very strong offensive line. You talk about Dalton Kincaid, but then you also have Dawson Knox behind him, and he's absolutely a threat and a tremendous blocker. And, you got a wily veteran. I like I said, this wide receiver group's not – I would say the Jaguars is significantly better, but Brandon Cooks has been there, done that. That dude has 8 1,000-yard receiving seasons.
Gabe Davis revenge game.
Gabe Davis revenge game. Josh Palmer is, not like I said, these are not, it's not great, but it's definitely not bad. There's plenty to worry about on the offensive side of the ball. And then, their defense as well, as we transition to that side, like their defense has played a lot better over the past 5 or 6 weeks than it had previously when, everybody was kind of like, well, the Bills' Achilles heel is this defense. Well, their defense has kind of found it. In fact, several different passing defense stats, they're top 5 in the NFL.
Yeah.
They are ranked really high in a lot of different regards. In the past 2 weeks, have only allowed 20 points. One team was the Jets, but
the Jets.
They should have beat the Eagles and, only allowed them to score 13 points. So,
yeah, the Eagles can be a bit of a mystery offensively too.
Yeah, that too.
As we know. I think for, the fan in general on Sunday afternoon, if you like tight ends, this could be a very impactful type of game. And it's been that way with the position really across football. Whether you watch the NFL, college football, it's been a renaissance, it feels like, for that position. And for the Jaguars, obviously, that means Brenton Strange. So you think about those two groups in this game could be very, very big. I think the Jags offensively, because of the questions I still have questions with that Bills defense, more so probably because of availability.
Yeah, they've got some injuries.
Guys that are injured. Both teams go into this game when you talk about just the cornerback position. You're going to have a lot of questions. The Bills have a couple of guys that are questionable at best. The Jags, Jarian Jones, as we know, based on practice reports from Mike Duraco and others on this Wednesday, not out there during that portion of the practice. So, if you don't have Jarian Jones, Greg Newsome left the game last week, came back. You've got Buster. You feel really good about at one corner. You could get into Christian Braswell territory pretty quick.
Yeah, no. And, while Christian Braswell has occasionally had to step up and make a play, and I've been, happy to see that, he's not a guy that you want out there for 30 to 40 snaps a game, right? You need this initial group to be out there. Hopefully, I know Buster Brown also was in non-contact kind of practice today, but he's at least out there. Same thing with Greg Newsome. You worry, you want Jarian Jones out there. Jarian Jones hasn't necessarily turned into a superstar quite yet or anything like that, but you definitely want him out there, partially because you don't have Jordan Lewis and you
Yeah.
need someone to flex into the nickel, or really probably start at the nickel for the majority of the game. So that's definitely something to consider because, yeah, you talk about Khalil Shakir, you talk about a shifty receiver like that. That's where Jarian Jones is the kind of guy to lock that guy down. Um, and then, yeah, as you were mentioning, those injuries on the other side. I mean, Matt Milano is not a full participant today. Jordan Phillips, one of their starting defensive tackles, just got put on the IR. You've even got issues with like Maxwell Harrison, the young
Yeah.
corner. He's not practicing today either. Same
Bosa.
thing.
Yeah.
Bosa's limited. Shaq Thompson starting linebacker limited. Jordan Poyer starting safety limited. So this Bills defense is a little banged up. They're probably all going to go. They're probably
No
all
Ed
going to.
Oliver up front.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No Ed Oliver. Yeah. They're probably, everybody that's not on the IR,
Right.
everyone that's not already ruled out is probably going to go. I mean, how could you not? But they're not going to necessarily be 100%, which is something that the Jaguars need to take advantage of. Kind of in the same vein of talked about the importance of the Jaguars defense stopping James Cook. This is where the offensive line has to beat, put belt to ass, so to speak, and let
BTA.
Travis Etienne cook. This is where, don't get me wrong, Trevor's playing at such a high level that, I trust him in a lot of situations to make things happen. But I'd rather, if possible, just run the ball. I mean, it would be much more ideal to, go back to back with ETN, and now that Tootin's back and looking good, like, you've got a
Control the
serious,
game with your backs.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Control the
time
game.
of possession. The longer you can keep the ball, and Josh Allen is not
Bills
on the
would love
field.
for this to turn into a shootout. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
they're
what they need.
down
Yeah,
with a game in the 30s.
right.
Both teams in the 30s. Because even against the Pats a month or so ago, they got down huge
Well,
in
that's what I was going to
Foxborough.
say.
Came back and blitz the number 2 seed in the AFC on their home field in the second half. So
That's what I
nothing's
was going to.
over. No matter how this game starts, Evan, nothing is over. I
Yeah,
don't think.
no. If
Yeah.
you're up 3 scores with 10 minutes left in the fourth, you better not take your foot off the gas. Like
Nope.
you need to absolutely go. But no, I mean, you go look at their 4 wins before the loss to Philadelphia: 23-20 over Cleveland, 35-31 over New England,
Mm-hmm.
39-34 over Cincinnati. Or
Yeah.
those 3 games. Those are all shootouts against
Yeah.
bad teams. Like,
Yeah.
to be honest, like the Bills were fighting for their life just to
Yeah.
win those games.
Other than
So
the Pats. Yeah.
other than the
Other than the
Pats, yeah,
Pats.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, of course, my bad. But point being, just like that's the Bills' game right now. They know that their defense isn't necessarily going to be able to lock
No.
down any, especially talented offense. I think overall, the more I think about it, I do think that the Jaguars are a great matchup. Like in this game, like I definitely think that what the Jaguars do well, what their strengths are at,
Mm-hmm.
are like bad news for the Bills, like genuinely. But the problem is just as we said before, best quarterback maybe in the entire playoffs is on the other team. So it's never over, like you said.
It's not, and he still has some weapons to work with on
Yeah,
that offensive side of the ball. Even for the Bills, from a special teams perspective, there are a couple of kickers deep into this thing now. They've had
yeah,
injuries at kicker, they've had injuries at punter. So that's sort of been more the theme for the Bills, and it's interesting too from the young wide receiver perspective, and kind of how these teams have gone about trying to remedy maybe second year woes. Keon
hmm
Coleman for the Bills has been
yeah.
a massive disappointment this season, really for the entirety of his short stint, I would say, there in
But yeah, I
Buffalo.
mean,
And
he's been
then
a healthy scratch several times this year.
he had a couple catches last week. Maybe they're trying to get him to some type of place where he can help in the postseason. And then Brian Thomas Jr. for the Jags. Now, more so in the first half of the season. But I think, again, we talked about the arrival and the implementation of Jacoby Myers. And good to see Cole Van Lannon get rewarded, by the way,
Oh yeah,
recently
that
with
was
his
sick.
extension. Now you're concerned about his availability. And if you go back to maybe Macari at guard, Walker Little goes back out to tackle, how that could impact things too.
Yeah, no, you really want Cole Van Lannon playing in this game. He has been just a revelation. The fact that the Jaguars found not only a franchise tackle potentially, but a franchise anywhere. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, you really can play anywhere. Yeah, that's incredible that they've kind of walked into the situation and developed him. He like Trevor Lawrence and several other players have taken a step up under this new regime. So you really want him in that game. Walker Little has looked solid the past couple of weeks, but he's never had a consistent run really in his career with Jacksonville. So at the end of the day, I'd rather him have to be a guy coming into the game if needed. With McCarry starting, who, McCarry hasn't necessarily been worth the price tag, but again, I'd rather have him at guard if possible. Something you mentioned with the when you mentioned kicker, I do think, the passing of the torch from Matt Prater to Cam Little as the deep bomb guy in the NFL, because really that was Prater's game for quite some time. I mean, dude was
especially when he was inside.
Yeah.
When he was, I guess, Detroit, he was the bomber. You're right. You're absolutely right on that one. For Trevor Lawrence, Evan, in terms of a legacy game, where's this one sit?
I mean, this is
given the guy on the other side too.
Yeah. No, I mean, Trevor Lawrence has, beaten some really good quarterbacks head to head before, I mean, you think about Mahomes earlier in the year. But I would say that if Trevor goes and plays at the level that he's played at the past 6 or 7 weeks, then this would be like the biggest performance of his career. If he's able to replicate that, and that doesn't even mean 4 touchdowns or something like that. I'm talking 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, no turnovers.
Yeah.
That would be the kind of performance that I think would make him undeniably like, okay, yeah, we have to respect him as like potentially a top 5 quarterback, at least right now in the NFL. That game against the Chargers will never be forgotten, but partially because Trevor Lawrence was the worst quarterback in the NFL for about a half during that game before, turning it around. So, no, this is a huge, huge moment. I mean, this is, I talked about the pressure on the Bills. There's definitely pressure on Trevor here. There's definitely pressure on Liam Cohen, your first playoff game as an NFL head coach. Now, I know that, Cohen's, experienced playoff atmospheres, plenty of times with the Buccaneers, but it's definitely different when you're running the show, right? So, you talk about other guys like, in terms of the magnitude of this game, for some of those other coaches on the staff, a playoff run could be potentially
Udinski, Campanelli
could be looking at head coach interviews.
Yeah,
and,
he should be. Probably should be.
Yeah, he should be. He's done an incredible job with his defense. So, but for Trevor, this is probably the biggest performance, like it would be the biggest performance of his career. The Jaguars, I didn't love this, on freaking social media said the biggest game in franchise history. Do we got to say that?
The ticket prices reflect it right now, my man.
Yeah,
that secondary market is ablaze for get-in prices on Sunday. Now, the part of that probably doesn't get talked about enough is Bills Mafia coming.
Yeah,
they come in. So if this would have been the Texans, to our talk earlier, not only would you still had a tough matchup, but the Texans fans weren't coming.
No.
And they're not as national. There's people that will come to Jacksonville as Bills fans, but there's Bills fans in Jacksonville. So that's part of the ticket man problem this week, Ev, is that it's the Bills Mafia looking to infiltrate the bank.
No, for sure. That's it's going to be different than 2017 though. 2017, there was, a sincere conversation on, is there more Bills fans? It certainly felt that way at that game. I don't think this year that's necessarily going to be as big of a problem. I do think it'll be like 70-30, pushing 60-40, but I think there's, you go look at the attendance of the Jags game last weekend.
Yeah.
And I know it was much cheaper, but they showed out in a game that didn't really, yes, it was clinched the title, but there was no world in which that game was going to be close, really.
Especially after Cam Ward goes out. I mean,
that ended up
the worst thing to happen to the Jags was the best thing to happen to the Jags last week. You go down 7-0, but you roll on him at the goal line.
Yeah.
And you get him out of the game. Unfortunately, you don't want to see him dealing with a shoulder injury to his throwing shoulder as a promising young quarterback, but hey, you do what you have to do. Yeah, I think the environment will be fascinating to see on Sunday in terms of in the stadium. I don't think it's going to be Florida Georgia type of split. I still think it'll be heavy Jags, but certainly the Bills Mafia.
And they're,
they're going to
even if it's only
represent
30%, they're going to be insanely loud.
loud.
Yeah, insanely
Yes.
loud. Yeah.
You know what?
No,
And they weren't especially hospitable to us last
no,
year.
they
Our
weren't.
pal Dom Tibbetts is always hospitable. Works
Yeah,
in the Bills media up there in Buffalo, so it was great. But boy, that's a rough place to play. It'll be interesting too, though, with the Bills. This is off topic to see how that translates to their new digs
right.
because prices and pricing out the real fans up there in upstate New York, how that impacts them. But what's the confidence level, Ev, as we get ready for this one? Where are you at?
I think I'm in 8. I'm
Ooh,
I am confident. I
as in
am
ready to
very
eat 8. Yeah.
yeah. I am confident. I can't lie. I just don't I think that there's a lot of, there sure, the Jaguars can absolutely lose this game. 100% they can lose this game. But there are so many things to me that signal that this is the worst possible matchup for the Bills.
Yeah.
Like they could not have picked a worse opponent. Going into New England would have been more ideal. Going into Pittsburgh obviously would have been, the best possible situation for them. But the Jaguars are one explosive on offense right now. They can score in a shootout situation, and their defense is so like good at just forcing those random turnovers, forcing those like big plays that I don't see. Also on top of that, again, no 75-yard rushers this year. Like James Cook is going to have a tough day, or he should, but I don't know. I just feel like
I'm
that
with you.
this,
I'm not at an 8, but I'm probably at a 6.5. You
yeah,
know, I just it's Josh Allen over there. Now, if you can put him in an early hole and put him in a situation where he's got to really force some things, that's when that opportunistic defense
should be able
could
to eat.
really kind of sink its teeth in. But I'm with you earlier. You can't let it be a two-way go for the Bills on offense. It can't be James Cook getting his and Josh Allen getting his. And I do agree, as much as you think about Josh Allen and explosive plays, the Jags right now are set up in a way where it's not my confidence in the Jags right now isn't so much the way Trevor's played, it's the
Yeah,
way everybody around him has
yeah,
played. And it started with Jacoby Myers coming in. So if you need explosive plays, I think they can get it from the wide receiver position. You need it from the tight end. Brenton Strange can give you that. If you need it from a back, you know, ETN and Tootin hopefully can give you that. I think it's going to be more on Josh Allen to win the game than it is
yeah,
Trevor. Trevor needs to play well. Don't get me
yeah.
wrong. But I don't think in terms of individual heroic type of efforts and performances, there's still going to be that much of it placed on Trevor Lawrence.
No, I don't think so either. I also think from a pure coaching standpoint, I'd rather have the Jaguar staff right now. Sean McDermott, there's like they won't, obviously they won't fire him if they lose this game, but there is kind of a, as the years pile on and
Yeah.
he's not able to do what he needs to
Poor
do to
poor
make a
man's
Super Bowl.
John Harbaugh, kind of.
Yeah, yeah, a
Yeah.
little bit. I just think that the way that Cohen has been in his bag, especially the back half of the season, as a play caller, as an offensive play caller,
Yeah.
yeah, he likes to take risks here and there that, you're like, I don't know if that was necessary. And that does scare me a little bit in this game that, the Jags are like, we're at our own 47. We're going to go for it on 4th and
Hold
1.
my beer and watch
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
Or we're going to kick a 70-yard field goal in a playoff game because F it, whatever, Cam Little. That those kinds of decisions do, he's a little rash,
You're not worried as much about Joe Brady's bag on the other
No,
side.
I'm not
All
worried
right.
about Joe Brady's bag. And same thing with, I'd take Campanelli right now. Like, I mean, he's also just been
He's been
really,
good.
really good.
Been
So
great.
I just think that right now the Jaguars are the better team. Like, I genuinely think so.
I think all around they are, but I'm scared, and I'll tell you, I'm scared. In the
Of
words of
Josh
your
Allen. Oh yeah.
grandfather,
Oh yeah.
Pops, because that guy can.
Yeah.
Again, if the Jags get up 21-3 or something like that, don't fall for it. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it's going to be a 4-quarter football game. I
Yeah.
truly believe that. I think the
Absolutely.
Jags will win at home, but yeah, should be a thriller on the banks
Absolute
of the St.
barn burner.
John's. So there you go. Anything else for us, Evs, as we conclude our discussion about the AFC South champion, Jacksonville Jaguars? Or there's some other matchups, maybe? Boy, it is just a hell of a slate
Oh,
in
it's
both
really good.
conferences. Just
Yeah.
great football, or the potential for it anyway, throughout the weekend and into Monday night.
Yeah, no, it really is. I mean, I honestly think that that Chargers New England game is going to end up being like maybe the surprise best game of the weekend.
Chargers.
Just
Yeah.
because I think Justin Herbert's going to like just absolutely take the collar off and just let it go because he
Yeah.
has to.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be really fun. And then also Green Bay at Chicago. That's
That's
awesome.
a fun game.
That's gonna
Love
be
that.
sweet. Yeah.
Love that.
So looking forward to those two, but I am making the trip down this weekend to
Yeah.
go to the game. I mean, I've never been to a Jaguars home playoff game. I've been to Jaguars playoff games, never been to a home playoff game.
That's true.
So this is a big one for me. Just tremendously excited. Show out,
Weather
show
looks
up.
great. I mean, it should be perfect, you know?
Yeah, like
So,
it. There's no reason. There's no reason to not be like just down there and going for it. If you can't afford a ticket, even just show
yeah.
up. Just make
The
the
ticket
vibes.
the ticket man agrees. Come on
Yes.
down.
Yeah.
You
Exactly.
need to be there, the ticket man. He agrees with
Uh,
Liam Cohen. Liam Cohen said need everybody in Duval down there. The ticket man agrees. Everybody come on down.
and we're noting that because I'm an idiot and I can be persuaded by my friends. I had a buddy, shout out Spiegel, who hit me up yesterday morning and said, "Come on, let's bet on the Jaguars to win the Super Bowl." So
Well,
I
right
did that.
now the value is great. I mean, you talked about it earlier with
Plus
Vegas.
1,400 is what I
They're,
got it at.
and they're picked like fifth, even if you wanted to pick them to win the conference right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And they're the fifth of the teams right now in terms of the pecking order of Vegas, most likely to win the AFC. So now you're going to have to go on the road. You would
More
think.
than likely.
We'll see what happens, though. I mean, if it plays out the way you're thinking in the divisional round, Jags
Yeah,
could be at home next weekend.
that's what I mean.
Yeah,
Chargers beat New England, and you're playing at
Gucci.
home. Yeah, you're
Speaking of
playing at home again.
bags,
So
speaking of
and
bags, the
then
Gucci.
and then you got to go back to Denver, more than likely.
Yeah,
Shoot, but who knows? I mean, even then, you might be hosting the Chargers in the AFC title game. Chargers go bang bang, which
yeah,
they've been.
because there's the seeding process that goes into it after this round.
Yeah.
So you don't know really who you could end up seeing in the divisional round right now. Yeah.
It's exciting times. Like I've said, the past couple episodes, savor it, enjoy it.
Mhm.
We don't get to do this enough, so for this to be happening, it's just I know dream season, regular season, dream regular season. Now we start a new campaign. So
Um, Jags looking to go 3-0 against the Bills in the playoffs,
yeah, that
and
too.
I guess that's what we're thinking here, perhaps that they do it.
Was Sean McDermott still the head coach back in 2017?
That's it's 8. That's 9 years ago.
Hold
I
on.
think
Yeah, he
it
was the
was.
head coach.
Yeah, if it wasn't, it was right there. He's been there a long
Yeah, I
time.
think that might have been his first or second year in
Yeah,
Buffalo. So
yeah, it was close. All right, Ev. Looking forward to you making the trip down, my man. And
cannot
if you
wait.
need some game day goodies right here at Party Girl in the Avondale area of Duval, they've got you taken care of. I'm looking over right now at those display cases. You've got some vegetable beef soup. You got some chicken salad sandwiches. Great looking assortment of homemade cookies in there right now. Yeah, right here at Party Girl, 4205 St. John's Avenue. Ev, we'll do it again soon.
Sounds like a plan.
For Evan, I'm Travis. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, so long, everybody.